anterior and posterior obliques, right? We have RPO, LPO, right? We also have RAO, LAO. So we are going to be doing all 4 of them. So let's go ahead and just start with, our PAs. So turn around. And actually, maybe I'll use the smaller one. That way it's lighter, so it's heavy. Okay. Does this reach all the way in the front?
Yeah.
This? Sort of? Okay. Alright, so we'll have you turn to face this board.
So we're doing both like LEO, REO.
Correct, we're going to do both. That's right. And so, one more thing about obliques. You can do obliques unilateral or bilateral. And all this means is, are you catching only the part of the ribs you're interested in that are supposed to be demonstrated, or are you going to demonstrate the entire thorax? So for example, if Mansi was in an RAO, we'll just turn you like this. So if Mansi was in an RAO, which ribs are the ribs of interest?
The right.
Is it left or right?
Right.
Right, because it's closer to the.
All right.
No, it's this one.
It is actually the left.
Oh.
So let me show you why that's the case. You can step away, Mansi.
In PA, it's elevated.
Okay.
Side away from the fire.
Oh, sorry, should have given you some wording. All right, so here we have our thorax. Okay, so thorax is an oval. All right, so we're looking at the person from head down. Right, so the head's like right here, okay? And so their spine is somewhere back here, right? And the ribs are gonna come around like this, right? So there's ribs here. In fact, let me change the color so it's easier to see. Right, so we've got ribs here, right? And we've got ribs
T-spine.
here. All right.
I see coming through.
Right, so far so good, right?
Yeah.
Right, and then, yeah, right, sternum is going to be somewhere here in the front. Right, there's the sternum. Okay, so let's say that we have our IR, okay? And we said that our IR here, Mansi was in an RAO like this, correct? So, if the X-ray beam is coming this way, right? And it's coming through the patient's, which side is this?
Right.
Right side. So there's our X-ray beam. What is going to be, what do you see on top of these ribs?
The spine.
That's right. The spine is going to be projected on top of your right ribs. It's going to be superimposed on those right ribs. If you're looking at the right ribs, do you want the spine on top of them? No. So this position cannot be used to image the right ribs, right? It makes no sense, right, for you to try and do this for the right ribs because the spine will be on top. But if the X-rays were coming through like this, now we see the ribs without this superimposition. Does that make sense? Sternum's really thin. It doesn't really show up unless you force it to show up. So sternum doesn't matter, right? It might as well not be here. And so you can see all these left ribs without superimposition. You elongate them nicely, you see the size of them. Right? So an RAO is used to look at the left ribs. You flip this around,
LEO.
right? Now this is an LAO, right? Now the spine's on top of these left ribs, and the right ribs are the ones without superimposition. Make sense? But what if this was posterior? What if the IR was back here?
Then RPO.
So RPO, right?
You look at the right.
So X-rays come here, no superimposition. So which side are we looking at?
The right.
The right side. If we look at the patient's left side, notice what superimposes the ribs. What is that?
This.
That's right. Once again, it's the spine. So the key here is that we're looking at where the spine is not. Right? If you ever forget this, right? If you can't keep track of which one is which, just remember you're looking for where the spine is not going to be. Right? So you feel your spine, you're like, all right, I'm like this. I turn RAO. Okay, spine is going towards the right. It's going to be on the right side, so I want to be looking at the left ribs. Right? If I go LAO, right, spine moves towards my left, so I'm going to be looking at the right ribs. Right? If I'm like this, if I'm doing this as like an RPO, right? When I turn this way, my spine is going to the left, so I'm looking at the right ribs on my RPO. Right? I turn this way, LPO, spine's moving towards the right, so I'm looking at the left side on my LPO. It's just all about where the spine is not going to be. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Right, great. Make sure you remember that. I'll test you later on.
Oh no.
So let's try that again.